Alrighty, we're here. It's been a minute, but we are here to listen to some Sentinels of the Multiverse music in honor of the 6th anniversary of the digital launch. I'm Jeremy. With me is, of course, the maestro of the multiverse, Jean-Marc. Say hi, Jean-Marc.
Hello, everyone.
All right, so as I was saying to Jean-Marc, it has been a while since we did one of these, and I'm very excited. There are a couple surprises that I don't think you're going to see coming. I can't wait for you to hear them. And just to let you know a little bit about what's going on this week. So obviously we're celebrating the 6th anniversary. Friday is the actual anniversary, the 16th. And at 1 p.m. Eastern, we will be streaming, me and John, with a sort of state of the multiverse and some other things about what's going to be coming up, since this is in fact the season finale. When we kickstarted season 2, there were still a couple of stretch goals that we didn't quite finish, but as of today, they are done, which means the season is complete. Whoa! Which means the challenge modes.
4 years later.
Yeah. So how many years? So a couple of years later. So challenge modes, that the version with challenge modes and the new achievements and the achievement contest will be going live sometime after this stream ends. It's still a little unclear how long this stream is going to be, because there's almost an hour's worth of music to get through. And then you'll be able to buy the soundtrack. If you were a backer, you're going to get a free copy of the soundtrack. So check your backer kit after this stream. But nothing is happening yet. You cannot get this music anywhere yet. You will once we're through it all. So we got the challenge modes. We got the hero album. Those are the last two things that are technically part of season 2. What's going to be happening after season 2? You'll have to tune in on Friday at 1 p.m. to find out. There's
Friday.
We'll sell you the whole seat, but you'll only need the edge. All right, so yes. Any other preamble before we dive right into the songs, Jean-Marc?
Yeah, I just want to say that I've been looking forward to this moment for 4 years now. Ever since we reached that stretch goal, I knew it was going to be a lot of work. And yeah, I mean, I do feel like we owe a little bit of an apology for how long it took, but there's always some other big project that we were focused on, and I just kind of poked away at these while I could, and then it was finally the time to close off the season finale, and I'm glad that we have this available to help kick that off.
Yeah. Thank you, Jamunky. We have worked, and I appreciate you thanking me, but all I do is keep the doors open. It's Jean-Marc and John and Jen and Cam and Krista and David who actually put the things into the game. And it's been terrific. I mean, Sentinels continues to be sort of our perennial favorite. I'd have to look to see if it still sells more than some of our other newer games, but it still sells very, very well. Much better than you'd expect a game at 6 years to be selling, which is awesome for us, and that justifies us continuing to be able to do these sorts of things. And so, just like it is the season finale, that doesn't mean that it's ending. There is going to be some future to the multiverse. And it actually just worked out that all the stars aligned. We've been trying to get the final challenge modes. I'm not going to be mean, but we've been trying to get the challenge modes out of Christopher for quite some time. And it's always, like Jean-Marc said, it always kind of like there are other things that are slightly more important for him to be working on. And so when he finally got them to us this summer, we were like, oh, this is perfect. We'll line it up. We'll get the music finished for the anniversary. We'll get the challenge modes done, and then it'll just be awesome. So that's what we're doing. And we're going to be listening to all the new music today. We got 20 new songs for you to listen to. And we're gonna ease you into it with one you've heard before, because you actually have heard, I think, 3 or maybe 4 of these before, because they were made for various reasons. But you have not seen the amazing videos that Krista made for each of them yet, and I cannot wait for you to see those. So with that, I'm gonna let Jean-Marc tell you all about our first hero.
All right, well, let's start off with the classic. We're gonna talk about Legacy. So, Paul Parsons is the son of Joseph Parsons, the man who defeated Fyodor Romanat in the fight against the USSR. Residing in Megalopolis, Legacy always fights for freedom, liberty, and protection of the good people of Earth against forces too strong for it to contend with. Presenting the leader of the Freedom Five, Legacy.
So heroic. Amazing. So tell us, I mean, you've told us before, but tell us a little bit about sort of how this theme came to be.
Sure, yeah. I mean, yeah, a number of you who are here have probably heard some of this music before, but I'm sure there are those who haven't, so I will, from this point forward, just act as if it's all new.
Wonderful.
So, yeah, Legacy's theme takes a very classical cinematic approach to a superhero theme. It's a purely orchestral score that is meant to evoke heroicism, freedom, soaring through the skies. The most obvious reference here is the Superman theme, but with any references that I take, I always try and find like what is essential to this and what isn't, so that, you know, I'm not basically like taking the same thing and then just changing notes and being like, ta-da. But you know, when you boil something down to what it essentially needs, you can come up with something quite different, but in the right ballpark. So.
And I will go ahead and mention that for those who aren't aware of sort of the genesis of this song, this was in fact the very first hero theme song we made for the game, right? And the reasoning was because we needed to do Iron Legacy's theme, and you were like, well, I can't really, like, Iron Legacy is a corrupted legacy, so I can't really make an Iron Legacy theme unless I know what Legacy's theme is, because then I have to corrupt it, right? Wasn't that kind of how that worked?
Yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah, I basically asked if I could do one more song for the Shattered Timelines, which was exactly that. I was like, I can't do Iron Legacies until I know what Legacies is.
Exactly. Very cool. All right, so we will continue our journey. In terms of how we've got these organized, we kind of tried to put them together as teams a little bit. So let's stick with the Freedom 5. And who's next?
Next up, we have the Wraith. So my Adriana Montgomery was an exceptional girl, blazed through her education at the age of 15, and going on to get a double major in math and mechanical engineering at one of the nation's top universities. However, One night, while walking home with her boyfriend, a group of thieves surrounded them and beat them severely. She survived, but her boyfriend didn't. After that point, her parents hired a roster of martial art instructors and a team of personal trainers. She grew skilled in several forms of combat, and Maya took it upon herself to patrol the area around the university. Maya began calling herself the Wraith and concealed her identity while on patrol with a homemade mask and cape. During the day, she was the new inherited CEO of Montgomery Industries. Legacy and Tachyon invited her to join their team to fight against the greatest threats to world peace, presenting the shadow of the Freedom Five, the Wraith.
Ooh, chills, I tell you. Chills I get from that theme.
Yeah, so for a long time when I knew that there would be a Wraith's theme, I imagined a solo violin to represent her, over top of background music that originated from the Rook City theme. And so this idea stayed with me for a long time, and I ended up sticking to it when it came time to compose her theme. The first section is much more Rook City than Wraith, but then you kind of hear her bursting out as if in the shadows. But then in the second section, she's kind of boldly traversing the streets, jumping through jumping from rooftop to rooftop, keeping everyone safe and a careful eye. And the city briefly thanks her for her heroic actions. So in order to bring this track to life, I really wanted to have some live violin, and my longtime friend Colin McKay offered to do it and did a fantastic job. Doing this piece with the virtual violin that I had there as a temporary measure sounded pretty lifeless to me, but Colin really brought the emotion that the track needed.
Very, very cool. Yeah, I'm trying to keep up with the chat, but also listen to you as you talk as well. Yeah, I think there's something about the sort of ethereal quality of this, but without having it be... and I'm saying this as a counterpoint against songs that they haven't heard yet, so maybe I'll just save it until later to talk about that. But I really love that sort of like deep, dark feeling you get from the Wraith theme, but it still it has a beauty in its own way, which it gives me chills, like I said. And they're joking about how it can't because it's not Absolute Zero's theme, but I get chills from that for a different reason.
Yeah, and I'm sorry that I can't really answer everything that's going on in the chat right now, just because these things always kind of require my attention in different areas, but I appreciate all the attention that people are paying to some of the finer details.
Indeed. All right, so where are we going to head next?
All right, next up we have Tachyon. So Dr. Meredith Stinson had her hand in numerous scientific research projects, from military technology to cheaper methods of ore processing. However, her greatest achievements have been in the field of particle physics. While working on a new technology used to transport objects at the speed of light, an accident occurred that trapped Dr. Stinson inside the device during its startup sequence, flooding the room with tachyons. Thankfully, she was unharmed, and serendipitously, it transformed her into the fastest woman on Earth, presenting the speedy scientist of the Freedom 5, Tachyon.
That actually had a much longer outro than I was expecting. The animation stopped and it just kept going, and I was like, wait, I forgot. I didn't actually have a chance to listen to all of these all the way through. I just sort of spot checked them to make sure that all the animation was working, so I was kind of just waiting there for the end. Cool. So that's Tachyon.
Yeah, so as anticipated, Tachyon's theme is presented at a high tempo. However, I have to admit that the actual tempo of the song was too fast to be heard by the human ear. So I had to slow the whole song down a few thousand times to make it comprehensible. But But when we do this, the support instruments are still playing quickly, but the main melody is actually at a fairly even pace, and this reflects her character well, as even though she's moving through the world at a superhuman speed, she is still completely in control.
Very cool. Yeah, I remember the first time I heard the beginnings of this theme, and I was giddy because it really is like. First of all, one of the things that I know Jean-Marc likes to do in his music is he plays with tempo and time signature and rhythm and other sorts of things. We both are sort of prog rock, prog metal people, so we like, when you play with sort of what's expected in music, and this one wasn't quite that, but it had the beginnings of it with like those stings being like kind of off tempo, a little syncopated at times, and I just remember loving that it was caught me completely by surprise in like the best way possible.
Yes, yeah, as Jeremy mentioned, messing with time in music is something we both get excited about.
Indeed. All right, so sticking with the Freedom 5, there's 2 left. Who should we do first?
Next up, we have Bunker. Tyler Vance joined the military, went to the Middle East, and in so doing became a war hero. Upon his return, he was approached by General Joshua Armstrong, who offered him the opportunity to join the Freedom 5. If he did, he would get to operate the brand new personal armament exo-chassis YS 1300T suit, an automated battle suit with the firepower of a full battalion, presenting the strategic brains and mobile armory of the Freedom 5, Bunker.
Oof, that rubble crumbling down at the end there. Good times.
Yeah. So, yeah, this one had a fairly obvious militaristic theme to it.
Mm-hmm.
And since the military has sort of a long history of music in particular styles, those were the ones referenced for this music, particularly music from the environment, Fort Adamant, but also the A-Team reference that some people have pointed out.
Yes.
But I didn't just want it to sound like a standard military band operation. So I thought, well, in pretty much every piece of card art you see with Bunker, if he's in the suit, you know, there's guns and explosions and all this stuff going on. So I basically just grabbed a whole whack of those and sort of made a sort of beatbox out of them. And so I kind of arranged them so that it represents the rhythm of Tyler's regimented style and his use of weapons as if he was performing them while he used them.
Mm-hmm. Very, very cool. Yeah, so obviously I don't really have much to add to that. I think you sort of covered all the bits that I was going to mention. Like the percussive artillery is just fantastic. However, now that we're 25 minutes in, I realize I completely forgot to mention that we're actually raising money for charity this week as well. So if you visit the link that I'm going to drop in the chat here, we are raising money for a charity called Black Girls Code, which helps women of color, get into STEM, basically. When we were looking for which charity we wanted to support this year, because this is something we've done every year with the Sentinels anniversary, I really wanted to find something that was at the nexus of the movement for Black Lives, but also on the tech side of things. And this seemed like it fit the bill. So if you have some extra money, feel free to throw it to them. We are, in fact, going to also be donating 10% of all sales this week to Black Girls Code. So you can take a look at their site, read about their mission, and if you have a couple bucks, feel free to kick it in. We're trying to raise $1,500 from the community, which would be over and above whatever we're going to end up donating as well. So, all right, so let's close out the Freedom 5 with the super chill dude.
All right, next up we have Absolute Zero. So Ryan Frost was a janitor at Pike Cryogenics Laboratories. One night, he was caught in the explosion of a malfunctioning Sub-Zero atomizer. He survived, but his body's core temperature was permanently dropped to nigh absolute zero. He was operated on under extreme conditions of cryogenically frozen operating room. He regained consciousness, but could not leave the tiny cryo chamber. Dr. Stinson, aka Tachyon, that you heard before, created a mobility-enhancing suit for him that was capable of maintaining internal temperature of absolute zero. He could have the suit and work to pay it off as a member of the Freedom 5. After 2 years of reluctance, he became Absolute Zero and fighting for the good of mankind to pay off his debt and attempting to live as normal life as possible. Presenting the coolest guy in the Freedom 5, Absolute Zero.
with the smooth sounds of Absolute Zero. What's up, night owls? That's how I feel about that one.
Yeah, well, Absolute Zero. Originally, Absolute Zero was sort of a hard guy for me to define what his music should sound like. So when I first knew we were doing hero themes, I thought of it as some sort of like, basically some sort of epic, heroic theme, but that used ice and some fire. But after listening to the Letters Page podcast episode about him, I reconsidered, like, even if that made sense. So when I asked Christopher and Adam about it, they agreed that his music was harder to pin down, and their basic description was something jazzy bluesy that's sad but not too sad, sort of the world sucks but so what attitude, and make it icy. So I had to take a bit of time to figure out exactly what that meant, but the results are as you heard.
Yeah, I think it works. You know, it's great sort of background music. Like, some of these themes are like, you want to get pumped up. This is one where it's like, I'll just put it on and just let it go. You know, it sort of keeps me in a decent mood all the time. So I think you captured exactly what you were going for, I think.
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah, yeah, I actually ended up really liking the soundscape of it. I think it sounds familiar yet unique at the same time. So
very cool. All right, so that was the Freedom 5, but of course, there's someone else who often likes to hang out with the Freedom 5, and who might that be?
Yeah, well, next up is Unity. Devra Caspit always had a knack for building things, but she could build things without even touching them. All she had to do was assemble them in her mind, and the pieces would align themselves. One day, she received word that there was a position open for a person of her skills, if she would be interested in working with Dr. Stinson. Presenting the technopath and intern of the Freedom 5, Unity.
And we're back. Could it be more bouncy and bubbly? The answer is no. It could not.
Yeah, this is one of the themes that I was most looking forward to figuring out. Wasn't exactly sure how to represent her powers. I knew it had to match her bouncy and bubbly personality and present her as a hero and sound like she was assembling and disassembling mechanical golems, and that those bots had some level of sentience. So I decided to go with, the sound of clanging metal percussion and of a chip tune, even though the bots are mechanical, but
Yeah.
It has lots of runs up and down to represent the bots being assembled and disassembled. And when I originally put it into a piano sketch, I wasn't really sure if those elements would come through. But once I added in the actual instruments, I felt like the unity between the orchestral parts and the robotic parts made for a fun arrangement.
Yeah, totally. And again, they said it, I said it up front, but like, and someone I think mentioned in the chat that it kind of feels like almost like a Nintendo song. Like it has that exact sort of like, it's just happy, like it's just happy, and sometimes that is all you need, and I think that is true.
Yeah.
All right, so we go from bubbly and bouncy, but watch out because things are about to get a little dark. See what I did there? See what I did there?
Yeah, I did.
Watch for the dark.
Well, yeah, watch out.
Dark. Watch.
Dark. Yeah.
Yeah. I see what you did there. All right. So who are we doing first in the Dark Watch today?
All right. So first up is Mr. Fixer. H.R. Walker used to run a martial arts school for kids, most of whom never paid for their classes. But about 25 years ago, a group of his students were killed for standing up for themselves, gunned down by drug dealers for being in the wrong place at the wrong time. HR closed down the school the next day, telling students the only way to stay safe is not to fight back. Now Slim just runs his auto shop, and everyone in the neighborhood knows it's the best place to get your car fixed. However, the pushers and dealers are expanding their territory, and there's been a rash of criminal activity on Slim's block. And HR's don't fight back policy won't last for long. Presenting the Zen mechanical martial artist of Dark Watch, Mr. Fixer.
Oh wait, we're back And now we're back. Okay. All right. Yeah, so that's Mr. Fixer. I told Jean-Marc I was going to mention this after he did his outro, but I'm actually going to do it now because everybody's chatting in there. And I actually had to ask Jean-Marc this as well. A lot of the ones that you have heard before have been tweaked. All of them have at least been mastered since the last time you heard them, so you might be hearing little things here and there. Ironically, though, of the ones you've heard, Mr. Fixer had the least done to it, and almost nothing done to it. So it's basically just you're happening to hear things because of what you're paying attention to. But like, for instance, the Legacy theme at the beginning had some other additional stuff added to it, and it was remixed in a slightly different way. So like, yeah, so some of these you will have heard them before, and they might sound very similar, they might sound a little bit different, they might sound a lot different. And so that's that. So take it away, Jean-Marc.
Yeah, and another thing I'd like to mention there is that, you know, I really like music that every time you hear it, you hear something new about it. You know, it has a few layers of interest to it that, you know, the first time you only notice like the main core parts, but then as you listen to it more, there's like certain things that stand out to you. You know, I feel like some of the most time-enduring music has a lot of that going on in it.
Indeed.
So this is one of the more calming and reflective pieces of music in Sentinels. This is due to Mr. Fixer's regimented meditation and overall internal calm. And then the tool percussion kicks in, representing sort of his auto mechanic occupation. And finally, as he leaves his shop to enter the streets of Rook City, the theme takes on a more urban theme. But you'll notice that even during this time, it still has that internal calmness.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's the sounds of crime and some chaos and just a bunch of things going around him, but it's still very internally calm. And yeah, I'm sure some people have picked up the fact that a lot of the certain sections of the track are deliberate references to the opening saxophone line of Rook City. This is kind of to show that the city is a part of his blood, but represented in a very different and more heroic way.
Indeed. Yeah, I again, I echo everything you just said. And I think some of the reason why I'm tripping a little bit over some of these is because we've talked about most of these before. And so I don't want to be saying, I know that some people may not have been here for the previous listening parties, but I don't want to be repeating things that I've said before. But luckily, we're about to move into something where I won't have to worry about that, because the next piece of music is something that nobody outside the hallowed halls of Handelabra has heard yet. Isn't that correct?
We'll see.
I guess we'll see.
So next up is Expatriette. So Expatriette was not a hero. In fact, she is the daughter of the notorious villain Citizen Dawn. However, Expatriette was mostly rejected by her mother, as she did not possess any superpowers. She instead started to get good with guns, that she took from some dinosaur poachers on Insula Primalis. She then uses her friend Regina's teleportation power to escape from their home base, and uses the gun against her so that no one could report where she had gone. She ends up in Rook City working as a mercenary, getting a reputation as a super killer. She's then contracted to take out Mr. Fixer, but she fails. Mr. Fixer gets the drop on her, taking away her weapons, and prompts her with self-reflective questions. Who are you really? What is your purpose here? She thinks about her life and gets involved with a Grand Warlord boss invasion, and ends up being touted as a hero. The Freedom 5 starts to help her out and get her on her feet in a new role as she is fighting on the side of good, presenting the sharpshooter of the Dark Watch, Expatriette.
Just ahead. Focus your energy and unleash your wrath, but it's a little hard to focus when your mother is a psychopath. Powers didn't come, I'm the bloodline's disgrace. Instead of getting glory, got a blast to the face. Then Mom killed my dad. I feared for my life. Said peace out, turn my back on this island of strife. So I grabbed some guns and escaped to the mainland, taking footwork jobs as a super killer gun hand. Popped a few heads and made my way to Rogue City. I did it to survive, and I admit it wasn't pretty. But that one mechanic in Slim's auto shop was the perfect mark. But then he got the drop. He didn't fight me back, he just asked me who I was. But I couldn't answer him, and it was all because I didn't know. I wasn't given the chance. I was doing whatever my skills would allow. But if I'm being honest, I didn't really know how. Could those superpower heroes really be the real deal? What's in it for them, huh? What is it they feel? I went to Megalopolis, see what they're all about, and they asked me to join them. Yeah, I guess I could help out. Now I protect the streets from threats and bombs, fighting robots and aliens and villains like my mom. I don't know if the weight of my past will cease, but now I finally know who I am at least. I'm a hero, not super, but a hero nonetheless. I may not be good, but I'm doing my best. I'm Expatriette, I'm the Dark Watch, and I've got you in my sights.
And I've got you in my sights! Yeah! Expatriette. Yeah, so the first, maybe not the first, because, you know, there's been some singing in others, but the first with, like, a real lyrical, you know, like, this is a song, right?
Yeah. So when I asked what was needed for Expatriette's theme, Christopher and Adam pointed me towards some more modern hip hop vibes that were more aggressive. And I'm by no means a hip hop connoisseur and wasn't really sure how I was going to approach it. But you know, I figured if I at least started with some heavy bass, I'd get somewhere. And it started to develop from there that there were 4 parts to Expatriette's music. One was the basic introduction of her character with a darker feel to it. This is during the beginning, and then it moves into some percussive gunfights representing her super killer days. Then there's a bit of a major lift to it as she contemplates herself and her life. And finally, it comes back to her main theme, but with a lighter and more positive touch. And of course, if you've heard this theme from a previous stream, you'll notice a substantial update to it, and that's the addition of full vocals. This was actually something that Christopher requested right from the beginning, but we weren't able to fulfill it until recently, thanks to the talents of Blythe Renee. She's a talented voice actor known, among other things, for the Borderlands series, and has worked really hard to capture the important nuances of emotion carried in this track. And hey, she's in the chat. Say hi, Renee.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, this was pretty great. So obviously we'd sort of heard the song before, and it's great. And then when we started working on the rap, it was like, all right, if we can, we can only really do it if it's actually going to be good, because I really didn't want it to feel like it was not, you know, either her voice or whatever. And you know, Christopher has all these same concerns always. And then when Blythe put it down, you know, laid the tracks down, and it came together, I was giddy. Like, the idea that we actually made a rap song is kind of crazy to think about.
Oh yeah.
But I love it. I love it. All right, yeah, so, and again, yeah, everybody drop your love down for Blythe in the comments. She's here today watching the listening party. Excellent work. Thank you so much. So that's part 2 of the Dark Watch. Who's coming up next?
Next up, we have Nightmist. So Faye Diamond took over Diamond Investigations from her father and began investigating the disappearance of her grandfather, Joe, over 70 years ago. That investigation took her face to face with the occult and magical relics. This is when she learned that magic is real, and she was good at it. She was eventually approached by Tachyon to help her investigate and fight against paranormal threats. Taking the name Nightmist, she vigilantly patrols the shadows of night, protecting this world from things that come from realms beyond our own. Presenting the paranormal investigator of Dark Watch, Nightmist.
Yes, so that is Nightmist. Got the sort of hard-boiled detective thing going on, which I dig.
Yeah, so the two main elements needed in Nightmist theme were sort of a film noir style investigation and eldritch paranormal activity. I got the mixtures of sounds right, but the song was it was much more up tempo. Because often when I think of something heroic, I think of something up tempo.
Mm-hmm.
But Christopher and Adam felt that it was way too quick for Nightmist's character. She's slower. She investigates more thoroughly. There needed to be a greater sense of mystery and less of urgency. I slowed it down, but of course, when you take a fast song and slow it down, sometimes it just sounds like it's dragging out. So I had to basically change the feel of some things in there, but I think it turned out pretty well.
Yeah, I think it really works too, because I think you're right. Like, just playing a song slower doesn't necessarily give it anything other than feeling like, wait, why is this not moving at the right speed? And I think when you sort of mix those elements back in, it starts to make a lot more sense that way. All right, so now I know that there are people out there who would love to see, or hear, I guess, the entire team of Dark Watch, but unfortunately a couple of them were not in Season 1. So maybe we'll have to do a Season 2 album someday, just so that we can hear the rest of the Dark Watch themes. That would be nice. So instead, we're going to shift gears to the other big team that we haven't heard from yet. And who are those people?
All right, so next up, we are going to discuss the Prime Wardens. Let's start off with Argent Adept. Virtuoso of the Void are master musicians who hold the tide of chaos and destruction through their connection to primal forces of the natural world. They leave a legacy in which their instruments are passed to the next generation of virtuosos of the Void. When a young bartender named Anthony Drake happened across an ancient Chinese bell in a cultural arts museum, he learned that he was the newest virtuoso of the Void. But Akash Buddha has been trying for centuries to hide or destroy the instruments that the virtuosos need. So Anthony Drake set out to seek the remaining instruments of part of the virtuosos in order to learn to channel his newfound musical powers. Calling himself the Argent Adept, he fights as an agent of order and restoration against the discord sown by all manners of vile beings. Presenting the virtuoso of the Void and the leader of the Prime Wardens, Argent Adept.
Whoa!
So much going on in that song. So much. It's so good.
Yeah, so because the Argent Adept is the hero that relies on music itself as his source of power, you know, I knew that his theme song would have to somehow reflect that trait. It had to sound mysterious and magical, yet still pleasant, and it had to sound powerful yet peaceful, and it had to sound complex yet harmonious. And it was really hard to narrow down exactly how all these goals would come together. It took me 3 attempts to get something that I was happy with. And it primarily uses the instruments that he would have as the virtuoso of the void, and supported by the enhanced power of his own voice. In the video game, Christopher's brother Anthony does the voice of the Argent Adept, so I really wanted him to be a part of the hero's theme, but unfortunately it didn't work out on time, so I had to take a stab at it. And since I'm a bass singer, it was definitely going to the very top of my range, but I hope it sounded okay in the end. But yeah, I was really, especially like towards the end where you just hear everything going full force at the same time. It's really like, okay, this is probably what it's like if you were being healed by him or something.
Yeah, very, very cool. Yeah, so there's a question here in the chat about Kavoth variant and how that is different from Dark Conductor. The Kavoth variant will not ever be in the digital game. I just want to make sure that that is understood up front. It was made specifically for like a charity drive, and my understanding is that it's actually a character from a different game. So unfortunately, that is just not a thing that will ever be in the digital game. And I would ask you not to bug Christopher and or Adam about it, because they've answered that question before, and that's why Dark Conductor is a thing, was so that you could be able to play that way, but not in, using that particular variant, if that makes sense. Yeah, it's a character from a book series, right. Cool. All right, was that everything? I think we got through everything about the Argent Adept, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Okay, so next I think we're going to go out into the cosmos for a minute.
Yeah, so next up we have Captain Cosmic. So, Hugh Lowsley and his brother Nigel were avid stargazers. One night they saw brilliant purple energy in the sky. Their awe turned to fear as it rapidly grew closer and blasted into the hillside. In the impact crater, they found a glowing crystal, which assaulted the brothers with energy, knocking them unconscious. When Hugh came to, his brother had disappeared, but he had gained powers of energy manipulation. He could produce and control hard light constructs of a glowing golden hue. As Captain Cosmic, Hugh fights alongside the heroes of the multiverse, and he is constantly searching for his lost brother, presenting the intergalactic hero of the Prime Wardens, Captain Cosmic. just to summarize everything that the chat was thinking.
Yeah, so all the things that I would have wanted to say about this, you are already talking about in the chat, and Jean-Marc was about to talk about as well. So I'm just going to let him say it all.
All right. Well, this theme in particular has a unique history. So as part of the Wrath of the Cosmos expansion, one of the villains is Infinitor, who's Captain Cosmic's brother. This particular villain has fallen into madness, and so his villain theme reflects this. But he also has a heroic variant, and for the music of that variant, there are little bits and pieces of the Lousley Brothers theme that were teased. But in that particular theme, you just hear little bits and pieces, and then they fall apart. In 2017, Trevor Casterline and I were asked to compose a soundtrack for Laser Riders, which is another one of Greater Than Games hit board games. And one of the bonus characters in that game is Captain Cosmic. So as a result, I composed an outline of Captain Cosmic's full theme, sent it to Trevor. He then made an awesome 80s remix of it. But the only problem is that the remix was extremely close to how I imagined the Captain Cosmic's original theme would sound. So in the end, the theme you just heard was an arrangement of a remix of an original song based on clips teased in a villain theme.
You got all that? This is going to be on the test, everybody. Yeah, so, and exactly what you said. Like, when I hear this one, you know, I actually hear 90s more than 80s in this version of it, which I think is good, because as you say, it's sort of like, it's got a weird temporal history in terms of how it was arranged and created, and I think it's just so great that, like, this version really evokes, like, a 90s cartoon to me, but you can hear that it came from an earlier 80s version of that cartoon, you know what I mean? It's like Transformers G1 or whatever after, you know, I don't know. That's what I love about it. It really has that, you know, I'm going to sit down on Saturday morning and watch something feel to me. So.
Right. Yeah.
Good
and
times.
I mean, you know, cartoons from the 90s are obviously an inspiration on pretty much everything I do, because that's just a part of who I am. So.
All right, we've done 11. So we're more than halfway through, everybody, and it's only been an hour and 10 minutes, so we still got some time. Who is the next Prime Warden we're going to hear today?
Next up, we have Haka. The fierce warrior Ata was chief of his tribe for many years, but one day, his facial tattoos mysteriously disappeared. He took that as a sign of the god's displeasure. Ata's right-hand man, Ruru, stepped up and challenged him, and he outwitted Ata in battle. Ruru dealt him a killing blow, and his body was then consumed. However, at dawn the next day, Ata reappeared at the edge of the village, and he called out to the new chief. He killed Ruru in a battle, and Ata was surprised to see that rather than honor for his victory, his people cursed him and took his name away. He was exiled, and he spent years wandering and fighting, growing stronger with each wound. He took the name Haka after the Maori war dance. He now fights for redemption, carrying his people's traditions proudly. Curiously, Haka never grew old or died. Day after day he remains alive, traveling across the world, making many new friends along the way, but sadly watching them succumb to their mortality. Haka has a pleasant and jovial demeanor that he carries with him as he traverses through new cultures across the ages, presenting the immortal protector of the Prime Wardens, Haka.
And we're back once again. Yeah, a lot going on in that track as well.
Yeah, so as mentioned before, Haka was originally a part of the Maori culture. A Haka is actually a ceremonial dance that's performed by that culture. So naturally, I wanted to include the music that they perform as part of Haka's theme. However, this proved very tricky. There isn't a lot of material to study from, and even what there is, it's hard to get together a group of performers that could accurately perform it. So as a result, we decided to lean more into Haka as a character. He's jovial, cheerful, strong, but he's also endured through numerous ages and has traveled everywhere. So basically, we shifted the focus to an uplifting song that celebrates various times and cultures of the world, but it puts it all together in a style that can't be quite identified to one place. And for those of you in awe of the amazing Wind's work in this one, that's thanks to Gregory Orris, aka Gamer of the Winds, from Overclocked Remix, who is wildly proficient in wind instruments of all sorts, and he is in the chat.
Yay! Thank you for joining us. Yeah, so interestingly enough, this is one of the songs that I have not actually heard the full finished version until just this moment, because as it happens with a lot of these things, some of them have been getting mixed and getting edited, and Krista's been doing the videos, and I've had so much other stuff to do, so like I just sort of made sure that they were working, and then that was that, and I didn't actually sit down and just listen to them all the way through. And this is the first time I heard this all the way through, and I really dug specifically how it sort of some of the earlier themes that you did were kind of like a 1 minute chunk and then repeated. And I know that specifically you and I discussed the fact that some of these were going to be a little bit different than that because, well, number one, you've sort of grown as an artist, but also because, we sort of let this format be a little bit wider open. Originally when we started doing some of the hero themes, it was just like, oh, this will be a fun bonus, or, oh, I need enough of this to know what it's going to sound like when it's evil, instead of approaching it from the point of view of, like, let's write a full song. And I feel like this one actually feels like a full song in a way that some of the earlier ones just didn't, and I really enjoyed it.
Yeah. I mean, things always change over time, and that sort of the way I compose some of these are reflective of when I compose.
Yeah.
So anyone who noticed any inconsistencies in the structure, that's probably why.
And actually, there's a fun sort of transition to that, because it looks like Krista used some first edition art in this particular video, which you can't really get anywhere anymore, because Adam decided he didn't like some of those arts and redid them. So you got to enjoy them one last time. All right, so moving on, we've got Fanatic.
Next up, we have Fanatic. So at age 6. Helena was hit by a bus in the streets of Lima, Peru, and suffered severe nerve damage and memory loss. After being declared dead for exactly 3 minutes, she miraculously sat up, speaking of heavenly visions and a divine mission. With no known family or memories from before the accident, Helena was placed under the care of a local convent where she studied to become a nun. But then she grew giant feathery wings, and they sprang from her back. When she dramatically revealed them during Mass, she was driven out of the convent. Taking refuge in the catacombs under Lima, she spent a year in solitude, where she found a sword in Templar armor. She modified the armor to fit her and inscribed the sword with runes in her sleep. Sword in hand, she launched her holy crusade to purge the world of evil, presenting the holy warrior of the Prime Wardens, Fanatic.
The reasons why I love this song are many. But I'm going to start with this because this is a connection I had not actually made before. And I think it's only because of having just recently rewatched these movies. I get really strong Bill and Ted vibes off of this song. And I don't say that to be... I say that as a compliment. It's got that sort of like, what if the future, but metal, but be excellent to each other, but there's also something else going on. And I think the combination of the chanting and the electric guitar licks and stuff, just for some reason, I guess having just recently rewatched those movies, I don't know, that's what it conjured in me this time through. Why don't you tell me what you think about this song?
Yeah, so Fanatic is an interesting mixture of religious spirituality and furious intensity. She attributes her power to her faith and uses it to rid the world of evil. I tried to reflect this in the music by including both sacred choral music, but also heavy rock elements. The two combine in an interesting way that was hard to mix, but very particular to her character. I love traditional sacred choral music, but making it more upbeat and heavy was an enjoyable challenge.
Yeah, well, as challenging as it may have been, I think the result really, really works. I think, I've definitely heard, there's certain types of, heavy metal genres that I listen to that do similar kinds of things, but not... It's more just like, what if there was an opera singer over heavy metal? And that's not what this is. This is a very specific blending of two different styles and not just an interesting vocal style on top of like a contrasting metal. So I think it really, really works.
Right, yeah, it had to be both for me. It couldn't just be like one with a sprinkling of the others.
Right, right. Very cool. All right, so we've got an inhuman being to discuss next.
Yeah, so next up we have Tempest. When Grand Warlord Voss set his fleets upon Vognhild Prime, its inhabitants were caught completely by surprise. Peaceful Marinians were overwhelmed, their numbers decimated in hours. Max Dalton escaped with a large group of survivors and charted a course for a life-supporting planet in the nearby Milky Way galaxy. As they neared Earth, their transport was ambushed by one of Voss's dreadnoughts. Crash landing in the wilderness, only Mach and a few others survived. While exploring the area, they were captured by Filter, the government's anti-alien task force. Before breaking free, Mach heard mention of other powerful beings on the planet. Taking the name Tempest, Mach set out to enlist the help of the rumored heroes to stop Voss's path of destruction and to protect his new peaceful Marinian home. Presenting the friendly storm of the Prime Wardens, Tempest.
All right. So yeah. So Tempest, as many actually sort of figured out, Tempest obviously gets some influences from a couple different places, specifically in Meridian Refuge. But what I wanted to point out was that this is playing with some of that classic Jean-Marc tempo skullduggery that he likes to do. I mean, it's not quite, what is it, Pike Industrial, which is, what is it, like 3-4-4-4-5-4 time signature or something like that. It's not quite that, but it's something a little different, right?
Yeah, I think it's 4-6-4. I can't remember.
Yeah.
It's
something fun for sure.
Yeah, but for this one, anyone who's played a lot of Sentinels, you'll know that Tempest is a part of the Meridians, who established the Meridian Refuge on Earth.
Hi, Christopher.
And that's one of the environments, including Oblivion. So, as a result, Tempest music is directly based off the environment's theme, but it has a bit more of a worldly, earthly sound to it, including stringed instruments and snare drum and stuff that the original environment didn't have. So it mixes in some more familiar elements. And since I know you were all again blown away by the beautiful winds in this piece, we can again thank Gregory Oris, the Gamer of the Wind.
Woohoo! Thank you again.
But I guess it could have gone in the other direction of focusing more on the storm part of Tempest, but I feel like that even though that's his power, he's still a very strong, uplifting. I was going to say person, but I don't know if that's apropos for an alien song.
Yeah, and actually, if you listen very closely, and I think you actually have to reverse the track and play it like with a really specific graphic equalizer, you can actually hear Dark Horse by Katy Perry playing backwards underneath this track. I'm kidding, of course. All right, so that, I believe, finishes up the Prime Wardens. So who's next?
Next up, we have the Visionary. So Vanessa Long began her life in a testing facility, quickly demonstrating her aptitude towards psychic powers. She was able to move small objects with her mind. Vanessa was trained to use her powers for combat and reconnaissance. She eventually ended up fighting alongside the Freedom Six in their efforts against Iron Legacy, but their efforts were fruitless. She ended up traveling through space and time to enter another reality, one in which the future was not quite so bleak. The Visionary now uses everything she has at her disposal to save the free world, presenting the mind-twisting reality of the Visionary.
Yeah, so unlike Christopher, I actually have no compunction for pointing out which one is my favorite, and this is my favorite. Of this batch of songs, at least. I'm not comparing it against other things. Just of the ones we're hearing today, this is definitely my favorite. It feels like a warm blanket to me. It feels like every science fiction show I watched when I was a kid, and it just takes me back to that time. Obviously, people mentioned Stranger Things, which also did a very similar kind of thing, and it's definitely my favorite.
Yeah, well, I grew up in the 90s, and although I wasn't able to watch it much, The X-Files was very popular at that time. But one show I did watch was Sliders.
Oh my God, yes!
Yeah.
Yes! Ah, that's exactly what it is.
Yeah,
Sorry,
I love that show, and although it didn't really have anything to do with psychic abilities, those two together kind of formed the general feeling that I was going for with the Visionary. I, like Captain Cosmic, with this one, I already had 2 reference points for her before I even made her theme, and that was the Dreamers theme, which is the Vanessa Long as a child, and the Laser Riders 80s remix of the Visionary's theme, Twist Your Mind, which was like an actual song with lyrics. So this is sort of a situation in which I had 2 remixes of song, but the original didn't even exist yet. So I had to work backwards to discover what the original song was that the others were based off of, and this was it. So I deliberately messed with the synths and the time signatures, and everything feels a little bit off, either like a little bit late or a little bit forward or this or that, so that the music would intentionally mess with your mind a little bit, but never in a negative way.
Yeah, totally. And I just have to say this. Take Walker says that I just high-five himself. That's actually just called clapping, as it turns out. And yes, I did clap. Because when the second that I saw... I'm reading along. He's got some notes here so that I know kind of what he's going to say, but I haven't read them sort of extensively. And as soon as he said Sliders, it just sort of fell into place, and I was like, oh my God, yes, that's what it was. And I clapped out of sheer joy. So there you have it.
It's a great show. I don't know if it still holds up because I haven't watched it in a while, but it was really cool.
So I actually sort of gave up on that show after about 3 seasons when it started to get more into was it like the Cro-Mags or whatever it was, where like they were like whatever. The first 2 seasons are the ones that I watched and I loved so much, with the Azure Gate Bridge in that first episode and everything. Oh, so good stuff. Mm-hmm. All right, so as long as we're talking timey-wimey, why don't we keep going timey-wimey with the next one?
All right, so next up we have Chrono-Ranger. So over centuries ago, I'll restart. Over a century ago, Jim Brooks was the sheriff of Silver Gulch. One day, he fell through a time portal into a future filled with terrifying monsters. He narrowly escaped the beast, saved by a sentient computer system that called itself Khan. Given years of solitude in this wasteland, Khan had determined the time periods from which the monsters originated, and it offered Jim a chance to go back in time to take down those monsters before they had a chance to overrun the world. Out of better options to choose from, Jim Brooks became the Chrono-Ranger, a time-hopping bounty hunter trying to save the future one bullet at a time, presenting the time-hopping sheriff, Chrono-Ranger.
All right, that is the Chrono-Ranger. The rootin' tootin', blastin' shootin'. I don't know.
Yeah, so this is another track that was based off an environment in the Sentinels of the Multiverse video game. Of course, you probably know I'm talking about Silver Gulch. However, this theme is a little less upbeat than Silver Gulch, as Chrono-Ranger is more of a measured lone wolf type of man. And since he also travels through time, I added in some elements that you might associate with that, giving it a slightly, Doctor Who kind of vibe. But I really like mixing musical styles, so this appealed to me greatly.
Yeah, that was definitely the thing that jumps out to me the most from this. Is like it's a Western Doctor Who, and that is nothing wrong with that.
Yep.
Very, very cool. All right, so going back into the cosmos again,
we have Skyscraper. So Portia Kerpro, forgive my pronunciation, was a Therathian freedom fighter. However, everything changed when the Bloodsworn Colosseum manifested in Dr. Wrath. The leader of the Bloodsworn took Portia hostage, harnessing her size-changing powers into a gladiatorial arena. After years of fighting, Portia found hope in the heroes of the planet Earth. She joined forces with them, and they all escaped together. Now Portia fights as Skyscraper, the Proportionist.
Sky!
She wields both her power to change her size and mass, as well as her knowledge of subterfuge and skill with her links, which she uses to control and subdue her opponents, presenting the size-shifting Therathian Skyscraper.
So yeah, this is another one that I have not actually heard the finished complete version all the way through from start to finish, and wow. Like the last time I heard this it was actually still in very work in progressy areas, and I hadn't realized quite how stark the contrasts were going to be. It's so cool. Well done.
Thank you. Yeah. This is another track that is based off an environment theme. And some people might notice that Skyscraper's theme is directly related to the Freedom Fighters section of the Doc Thorath environment music. But in addition, there are instrumental similarities to Cargo Warfang's theme. That's sort of the Bloodsworn Colosseum part of her history. One of the most important aspects to be incorporated in this theme is Skyscraper's sizes, of course. So it starts with her regular size, and then she becomes huge and heavy, but is still her heroic self. And then she shrinks down to a tiny size, but still makes her presence known there. And finally, at the end, there's a mixture of all three elements at once. I mean, she can't be all three sizes at once, but
right.
It made for a good finale.
Makes sense to me. So Citizen says it must be fine to listen to them all. I'm assuming you meant fun to listen to them evolve, and it is. You know, and I wanted to say real quick, so one of the things that I happen to think makes me a pretty good CEO is that I know enough about all the things that everybody that works here does, but I couldn't actually do them mostly myself, and music falls very much into that category. You know, I understand a reasonable amount of music theory. I've, you know, in my younger days, I used to play drums, I used to play guitar, I took piano lessons for years. So, like, I have a fundamental sort of understanding of a lot of how music sort of works. But I couldn't actually compose it if you put a gun to my head. So as a result, when Jean-Marc plays like, okay, here's the first thought, it's just a piano sketch, I think I tend to be a lot better at hearing where it's going than somebody who doesn't have all that sort of music in the background, or music background to sort of draw on. But it is really, really cool to see, like, when I hear this as a piano sketch, and then now I hear it fully orchestrated, and think about how it differs from where I maybe was expecting it to go, because I sort of had that thought already, you know what I mean? So... Mm-hmm. Anyhow, really, really great stuff. And yeah, we're coming to the end. We have just a few more to get through, and we're already approaching 2 hours. So let's just move on to Ra.
All right. Ra. Dr. Blake Washington Jr. was starting out as an archaeologist and discovered a previously unknown pyramid in the Sahara Desert. But the long empty tomb seemed to be devoid of sarcophagi or pharaohs. It did, however, contain chambers full of treasures and artifacts. He made his way through a hidden maze, solved ancient puzzles, and avoided traps, eventually finding a golden chamber marked with the insignia of Ra. And in the center of the room was the staff of Ra. As he grabbed it, bright sunlight filled the subterranean chamber, and centuries of knowledge coursed through him. He was the next Ra in a long line of Egyptian heroes called by that title. Ra, born again, would once again defeat the world from evil, presenting the god of the sun, Ra.
Yeah, so this one has a really special place in my heart because it obviously feels a lot like Tomb of Anubis, and I listened to the Tomb of Anubis music over and over and over and over and over and over and over when I was putting together the trailer for Shattered Timelines. And so it was just, or not Shattered Timelines, which one? Is that the one with
Infernal Relic.
Infernal Relics, excuse me. Yes, Infernal Relics. I knew I was not right there. Okay, so when I hear this music, it takes me back to that moment when we had only done a couple of expansions at that point. We were really trying to find our footing, and it was so good.
Yeah. So as you mentioned, this is based off the Tomb of Anubis. I mean, if the feeling for this one felt to me pretty clear from the start. Heroic, adventurous, Egyptian. But as I found when I did the music for Tomb of Anubis, a lot of the tricks and techniques that I'm used to in major minor tonalities don't really work quite the same way when using the scales that we typically associate with Egyptian music.
Yeah.
And yeah, so it's always interesting to try and find melodies that work for you when you work in a sort of a different scale. But yeah, and I found this one particularly hard to mix, but I think it ended up okay in the end.
Yeah, I love whatever mixing you did to make the fire really feel like it's like exploding underneath you is so good. I love it.
So next up we have Omnitron-X. In a distant future, Omnitron has progressed through several forms. It augments itself whenever thwarted, always returning to assault humankind. However, no matter the improvements, Omnitron is often defeated. What allows mortals to best a vastly superior form? The key must be empathy. Their compassion for one another drives them to overcome impossible odds. Thus, Omnitron rebuilt itself as a humanoid form with an empathy component. When activated, this new 10th form of Omnitron realized with horror that its previous purpose had been death and destruction. Omnitron-X now focuses its efforts on preserving humankind even in the face of its old self, presenting the latest model of Omnitron, now with empathy, Omnitron-X.
Oh boy, so much fun. So much fun! Yeah, so this is, yeah. I mean, Omnitron obviously was one of the very first things that we sort of got to do multiple takes at with music, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, some of the heroes' themes are based off of environment music. Omnitron-X's is based off of both an environment and a villain. Who's we already have in the video game.
Well, but then there's also Cosmic Omnitron.
Oh, yeah, and Cosmic Omnitron too. Where it once destroyed cities or then became a plant to rebuild itself, now that Omnitron-X is capable of empathy, its music has a whole new spin on it. And so it has everything from before plus some more things, all in a new, very lively, upbeat, and optimistic way. And as some people pointed out, there's Unity influence in there as well. I really enjoyed spinning Omnitron's theme around this way.
Yeah, and I think it really works too. Omnitron felt very dangerous before, and like all that danger has sort of been converted into helpfulness, which I think is just so wholesome and great. All right, so I think we got one more, right?
Yeah, so next up is the Scholar. So no one knows where John Rhodes came from. He just showed up one day in the Everglades on his houseboat. Turns out he's the world's most talented alchemist and wielder of the Philosopher's Stone. John had always had an affinity for altering the very threads of existence. He could feel them as he stretched around him, connecting all reality. When those lines drew him to a mysterious glowing stone, he knew it was right and proper to take it with him. With the stone, he can twist the lines and transmute physical objects, including himself, into other materials. John, the Scholar, mostly keeps to himself, though he's always willing to share wise words and to take a bite to eat with any passerby. Sometimes the lines pull and twang concerningly. He cares deeply for the ley lines, easing their tensions by stopping extraplanar entities from entering our world or soothing the nightmares of a child. Occasionally, he works with others to accomplish his goals. He doesn't mind a little company now and then, presenting the wise and chill academic, the Scholar.
Yes, so that was The Scholar. So, yeah, tell me a little bit about what your thinking was for building this one, Jean-Marc.
Sure. When composing the music for The Scholar, one thing that Christopher emphasized was that it had to be laid back and chill. To be specific, something between meditation music and psychedelic 60s music. And that's why this music features a mixture of soloing winds and lazy drum beats and 60s style harmony and slightly offbeat playing, and an overall sense of relaxation. In the later half of the song, the melody picks up to emphasize his heroic qualities, because the scholar is wise, a thinker, and lends a helping hand to the struggling heroes. And yeah, so I guess that about wraps it up.
All right, well, there you have it, folks. That is all 20 of the amazing heroes from Season 1 of Sentinels of the Multiverse.
Yeah. Sorry again that it took so long to get all these. It was always one of those things.
Wait, hold on a minute. Everybody knows what you're doing here. You'll be both like, well, I guess that's it, and then, oh wait, are we forgetting something? And then, oh yeah, there's one more song, and then you'll play the best hero theme song anyone has ever heard.
Oh, guys, I guess you're here. Okay. Yeah, I'm sorry, I actually forgot to write your theme. Sorry guys.
And by forgot, you mean you were so intimidated by the high pressure from all my fans of getting my theme song just right that you felt like you couldn't live up to it, right?
Yeah, sure. That's exactly right. So yeah, but in the end, no theme song. So, sorry guys.
Okay. You know what, Jean?
Actually, it's Jean-Marc.
Sure. Jean-Marc, just move aside and I'll take care of it, okay?
What? No, wait, what are you doing in my house?
I said move aside! Let's see, how hard could this music thing be? Just put some notey notes here, a few resty rests there, and then click the generate music button. Done. All right, we're ready. Okay, so just go ahead and play this file right here.
I can't do that. Jeremy's hosting the stream.
You're gonna make me fly all the way over there? Fine. Hi!
Oh, no, you don't. Oh. Hey, no. Hey, get back over here. What are you doing?
All right, folks, here it is. The best theme song you've ever heard is starting in 5, 4, 3, 2...
Get away from my computer.
1! Guys, watch the greatest hero rise. He is strong and cute and wise, and he always takes the prize. There's no need for you to fear, oh, he's the latest, greatest hero. And to put it simply, it's good to be Guise. That's me. Now you probably wanna know how such a hero came to be, 'cause everybody loves a good origin story. And I'd like to take a minute while you're just sitting right there and tell you how I became the king of, well, everywhere. I used to be known as the king of capes. I traveled around the world and all over the place, a renowned photographer for top magazines, the best hero photos you've ever seen. Then one day a piano fell on my head. I thought for sure that I was dead. Is what I said, and the world gathered to mourn and dread. I see your tears, but don't you cry. That day Joseph piano fell, it filled me with power like a magic spell. And like a phoenix from the ashes, I rose up that day, a new hero that would take everyone's breath away. Guys, we're so glad that he's alive. Come and give him a high five as he goes in overdrive. He was once a paparazzo, now he beats up bad guys lots. So, and to put it simply, it's got to be Guise. That's me. Now, like any perfect hero, there's a sensitive side too. 'Cause my character is deeper than the deepest thing that's blue. If you want a tragic tale, I'll tell you one surreal. I'll go ahead and change the key to express just how I feel. Bought some bananas from the greengrocer last week. They looked so appealing, so banana-y and sweet. But when I unpeeled the peely peel to try and take a taste, that perfect banana broke my heart by exploding on my face. And now I'm banana-less. I don't know who I am anymore. My whole life is just a slimy mess, like the fruit explosion on my floor. And I am banana-less. How can I make banana pizza now? Avocado doesn't taste the same. Maybe you two can show me how to live banana-less. I know you're not here to listen to my woes, 'cause bananas can be fickle, as everybody knows. You wanna know more about me, and I understand the thought. So I'll sing the grand finale and give it everything I've got. Guys, oh, he shoots and slings and flies, transforms into his allies, and he's Santa in disguise. He can show a perfect zero what it means to be a hero, and to put it simply, he's perfect, can't you see? 'Cause he's Guise, as you now can visualize. I can't overemphasize, he's already optimized. Now I told you all my stories, and they're all the truth, my dear. And you've heard the only theme song that you'll ever need to hear. For the greatness of my greatness is the greatest sight you'll see. It's good to be Guise. It's great to be Guise. That's me. That's me. And there you have it. The best theme song ever. Mic drop. Booyah.
Ow. Okay, I mean, I guess I just. Oh, you're back.
Wait, no. Booyah first, then mic drop.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, but did you have to drop my? Don't let the cat out. Okay. Well, that was certainly something. I don't know why he had to drop the mic on my head.
Is he gone now?
Yeah, he left.
Oh.
Oh man, I don't even know what just happened. I've been asleep, I think, for 5 minutes. Whew.
Yeah,
All right.
I think I had a concussion there. Well, anyway.
I would
that
ask
was-
you to explain what came to it, but I think he did it all himself, right? So.
Yeah, that was Guise's theme, I guess. I guess he did most of the explaining in the song itself.
I guess
so
that's true.
I mean, I guess the only thing that Guise didn't mention was that it was masterfully performed once again by voice actor Joe Zieja. Joe was very excited to do it, and you can tell by the performance. But seriously, don't tell Guise that he's actually voice acted, because he'll vehemently deny it.
Oh yeah, he will not be happy about that. All right, well, that really is the last song that we have for you today. I didn't know it was going to be there, but here we are. So, where can you hear this music? Well, if you are, well, let's start with this. We're going to be replaying this live stream tonight at 7. So if you had friends who missed it and they want to see it, let them know that they can come back. It'll also be up on our YouTube channel as soon as we can get it there. But if you want to have just the music, if you were a backer of Season 2, you're getting a free copy. It's actually in the process right now of Backer Kit getting it ready. So if you go to your Backer Kit dashboard, you should be able to go ahead and download that. It sometimes takes a minute for it all to show up, but if you keep refreshing, you will see it at some point. I thought I pushed the button. Well, whatever. So that's going to be a thing. You'll also be able to buy it from handelabber.com. And also today, assuming we can get it done in time, it will definitely be by the end of the day at Bandcamp as well. If you want to buy it from iTunes or some of these other stores, it will be on those stores eventually, just not today. And there will obviously be more things happening all week as a result of the anniversary. So like I said, there's going to be a rebroadcast tonight at 7. We've got other shows going on all week. If you head to sentinelsdigital.com, you will be able to see the list of everything that's happening. Yeah, and as John said, has just posted, the update for Sentinels is going out now, and it will be the kickoff for the anniversary, or excuse me, the achievement hunt. So check out sentinelsdigital.com again, because that is where you will see what the rules are to win one of those coveted spots in the Hall of Fame, and how to do so if you are going to be participating. Let me refresh this page over here, see if the distribution is working yet. It is! Cool. So if you're a backer, go... Oh, it's there for the hero themes. Awesome. Thank you, JCC. Yeah, so head there. You can get that. After we get off of here, we're going to be pushing all sorts of buttons so that the update will go out on all the various stores. The sale should now be live. It has been live on the mobile stores, but I believe it's going to be live on Steam as of about 10 minutes ago. So check that out. Some of the deepest discounts we've ever had on certain aspects of Sentinels of the Multiverse. And of course, Guise's bundle is a really great way to get absolutely everything. I don't want to draw this out too much because I got to go push some buttons, but is there any last words you'd like to mention, Jean-Marc, before we take off?
Well, thanks so much for everybody for backing the Kickstarter that we did over 4 years ago, getting to the stretch goal so that this got to happen, and a whole bunch of other cool stuff that we wouldn't have been able to do without you. We just would have ended the whole thing there. Yeah, for showing up today. This was a long time coming, but it was a lot of work, but we all love doing it, and you guys all deserve it. Yeah, just, I don't know. Thank you. Thanks so much.
Yes, thank you. I'll echo that. Thank you so much. I can't believe it's been 6 years since we launched this game. I mean, that is just, it's even longer, obviously, it'll actually be 10 years for the card game this coming summer. And yeah, 6 years for the digital game. Thank you for all that you do. Reminder, we are raising money for charity, so make sure you check out that page. It's a great cause. And join us at 1 p.m. on Friday for a sort of state of the digital multiverse with me and John. We'll do some Q&A. If you have any Qs, bring them along. We'll give you some As. And we'll maybe let you know what to expect post-Season 2 of Sentinels of the Multiverse. So thank you, everybody. We're going to transition out, and I'm going to go push some buttons, go play some Sentinels, and save the Multiverse. Good night. Or
right.
good
Thanks,
afternoon.
Everyone.
All right. See ya.
Bye.
Bye.